গোলের भी कर दीजिए।
Good morning. Welcome to VANIK-IAS. Let's start today's current affair discussion. So, coming to the topics first. The first one is regarding the National Commission for Protection of the Child Rights. Okay, because children are the precious wealth of the country, so they are the future of the nation, and they are to be protected. And at times, they are exploited in India. We have made so many rules and regulations, but amidst all the rules and regulations in force, the children are being exploited. And in the era of electronics, or you can say that media age, the children are being more exploited directly or indirectly. So recently, new rules have been issued by the National Commission for Protection of the Child Rights to protect the rights of the children working in the OTT platform. Okay. So in the social media, in the over the tough platforms. So the guidelines to regulate child participation in the entertainment industry were issued by the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, and NCPCR. This one, NCPCR. Okay, so that was issued in 2011. This was issued in 2011. The draft increases the scope of guidelines to cover social media and OTT platforms for the first time. So the recent amendment, first it was issued in 2011, but recently government has brought some new rules. Okay, so the recent draft increases scope of the guidelines to cover social media and OTT platforms for the first time. So this is the new edition. What is new? To cover social media and OTT platforms for the first time. The scope of the new guidelines will cover TV programs, reality show, which is where there is a scope of more exploitation, then serials and advertising. But out of these things, so there is much scope for violation of child rights in the reality show, okay, and in the uh, other programs scopes are less, but definitely more in the reality show. There is allegations of some violations in the reality show. Okay, then news and informative media, movies, content on OTT platforms, content on social media, performing arts, and any other kind of involvement of children in commercial entertainment activity where the scope of exploitation is more. Fine. So government has brought all these into control. So because it needs regulation, otherwise the children, the future of the country will be affected by the impact of all these things. In the race of commercialization, their childhood will be lost and they will be exploited even by their own family members, because the allurement of money what they receive in return of performing may at times attract their family members, including parents, to put them into such activities which in the long run may affect their personality, their career, their health, and their overall development. So, see, but in the protection health, a minor, especially below the age of 6 years, shall not be exposed to harmful lighting, irritating, or contaminated cosmetics, which is mostly used in the entertainment industry. Lighting on the stage, while shooting the scene, or irritating or contaminated cosmetics, which are used for the makeup purposes. Children cannot be shown imbibing alcohol, smoking, or using any other substance, or shown to be indulging any sort of antisocial activity and delinquent behavior, because this may have negative impact on their personality as well as on the peers or on similar children who are watching them over these platforms. It will not only affect the children who are performing or participating, but also it will affect the children in the society, because one child or one child of the same age doing something like this may influence the tender mind in others to be attracted towards alcohol, smoking, or using substances, or indulging any antisocial or delinquent behavior, because they are not mature, the mind has not yet been matured, and they don't have that much of wisdom in their mind. So they will be attracted to this Robin Hood image of the child and may commit some mistakes which will have very much to negative impact on the society in general and on that child in particular. No child can be engaged in any situation involving nudity, which is growing in the society. And if you see during the period of pandemic, so this concept of nudity has get a new dimension. Okay, especially in India, among the world. So nudity and the exposure of the children to, or accessibility of the children to this mobile phone, has enhanced the scope of this nudity among the children. Coming to mental health, consideration has to be given to the child's age, maturity, emotional and psychological development, and sensitivity. Fine. So what is this? Our child's age, the maturity, emotional or psychological development, and sensitivity. A child cannot be exposed to ridicule, insult, or discouragement, harsh comment, or any behavior that could affect his or her emotional health. This is, should not be exposed to such situation where he or she will be feeling insulted, discouraged, okay, or any behavior that could affect her emotional health, because the child is a very tender mindset, okay, emotionally he is not mature. Any such negative impact will be lasting, long lasting, and may retard the mental development as well as the overall future of the child. Then the producer's responsibility. The producer will now need to obtain the permission of district magistrate or collector for the participation of a child in his or her show. This is what, so government has fixed the responsibility with the district magistrate, collector from district magistrate to give the permission to the event organizers or the producer whether any child will participate in the show or not, because with the, so this guideline will definitely put some restraint on the misuse or negative impact on the child, because the administration will be looking after their overall welfare. Fine. So this is the protection. What more? Producer will also have to run a disclaimer saying measures are taken to ensure there has been no abuse, neglect, or exploitation of children during the entire process of shooting. Entire shooting process. So this is a disclaimer that the child has not been neglected or exploited the entire process. And most important thing what I can mention over is that the producer also need to ensure the child's education under Right to Education Act. Fine. Although he or she, the producer, may use the child in shooting the activity or performing arts, but during that period, the right of the child to education should not be affected at any cost. So the child should have adequate scope to fulfill the parameters under the right to education as mentioned. Okay, so the right to education, it is guaranteed to every child in the age of 6 to 14 years, which has been granted by the government. 6 to 14 years children will have free and compulsory education under article 21A. Okay, so this is to be ensured by the producer. Fine. So here the things are not ending. There is a role of the guardians. At least one parent or legal guardian or known person has to be present during the shoot. When the event, so he will be doing any shooting activity, either one of his parents or any legal guardian or known person must be present in the shooting set. Okay, for infant, the registered nurse need to be present along with the parents or legal guardian, because in some situations we need an infant for shooting, and in case the infant is to be on performing, or there's some shooting will be done on the infant. So in that situation, a nurse, a trained nurse or registered nurse is to be present to look after the health of the child. At least 20% of the income earned by the child from the production of or events shall be directly deposited in a fixed deposit account in the nationalized bank in the name of the child, which may be credited to the child on attaining majority. This is for the guardian. See, the guardian even cannot take the entire proceeds what he or she is earning right now, and so a part 20% of the earning will be deposited in the name of the child in the nationalized bank, which will be given to him, credited to him on attaining maturity. So with interest, that will be a big income for him or her, because what he or she is earning as a child, so maybe taken away by the parents or guardian. So that is why the condition has been imposed that it is unlike that the child will get a bank account, and the 20% of the amount what he or she is receiving right now for the performing act will be deposited with the bank in his account, and he will get it back on attaining majority. Okay, then coming to content created by the child or his family or guardians, it shall be treated as children working in a family enterprise as provided on the Child Labor and Adolescent Labor Act 1986. So it will be, even if the content is created by the child or the family member, this situation will be something different. And the penalty provisions, the draft also includes stringent penal provisions for violating the guidelines, including imprisonment. Fine. Anyone violating these provisions mentioned in the Act, they is subject to imprisonment, because so without stringent legal provisions, okay, fine. So this is okay. So without penalty, so we cannot bring any substantial change in the provisions, because in Indian society, so enforcement and penalty are the only requirement to bring the unlawful elements of the violators to book. Without stringent penal provisions or punishment of fine, so no acts or rules are ever obeyed in India, because this is our level of awareness. Fine. So significance need of the guidelines. Children are now being used in the video across social media and in the content of OTT platforms. When the children are more and more being used, so this needs that there should be some control over it. It had not been covered by the existing guidelines, and this increasing influence and scope of the internet needed to be covered. Fine. Parents who are using children to make money have to be held accountable. Right now, some parents are even using the children to earn money. Okay, so they have been made machines or income sources, and in this process, so the right of the child or his or her personality, his childhood is completely at jeopardy. So in this situation, the parents have to be held accountable for this. Recognition of other acts, Juvenile Justice Act 2015, Child Labor Amendment Act 2016, Protection of Children from Sexual Offence Act 2012, Information Technology immediately Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2021. All these are also to be applicable directly or indirectly under this situation. The provisions of this act are not included in the guideline, because these things need to be added. Otherwise, so the scope of this that what had been done long back. Okay, Fine. So this needs to be respected well. Then so in the present situation, all these provisions or all these acts enforced in India have been added and being made part and parcel of this law. So it has widened the scope of this child labor protection provisions, and their use in the social media, in the entertainment world, will be to some extent promoted, but with restraint and utmost care for the to give sanctity to the childhood. The risk of exploitation: in the absence of any monitoring mechanism, the children in the industry are at grave risk of exploitation because they lack the legal rights to the earning they generate. Because being kids, they don't have the legal rights over what they're earning. That became the earning of their parents, and the parents may exploit it. Fine. So safe working conditions and adequate protections via labor law are to be included. So the child who are being used and who have been gifted with extra something extra by God, let they be used or they be promoted to perform these things, but they should not be exploited, because exploitation of the child will definitely affect their personality and will retard their growth. Fine. So this is what the provisions of the very first topic that we have taken today. Okay. So to conclude in this situation, what more is there? So need of protection: participating in adult-oriented industry, children are often exposed to unsuitable, anxiety-inducing, and at times dangerous operational hazards and situations. Children are also susceptible to a plethora of other crimes against children, such as sexual exploitations, child trafficking, and bonded labors. So these need to be protected. Then protection of children. So there are so many other acts which are being enforced in India for protecting the child rights. Starting with the most important one, the right to education under Article 21A. The states shall provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age of 6 to 14 years in the such manner as the state by law may determine, which become enforced right now. Child Rights National Commission for Protection of Child Rights have been established to protect the rights of the child. It was set up in March 2007 under the Commission of the Protection of Child Rights Act 2005, an act of the Parliament which was passed in December 2007, and Priyanka Kanungo is the present chairperson of the. So, with the present chairperson of this, so there is Priyanka Kanungo, the present chairperson. Okay. It comes under the administrative control of the Ministry of Women and Child Development. So, Ministry of Women and Child Development is the administrative the controlling agency of this. The Commission's mandate is to ensure that all laws, policies, programs, and administrative mechanisms are in consonance with the child rights perspective as enshrined in the Constitution of India, and also the UN Convention on Right of the Child. So this is what. So the Commission is to ensure the child is defined as a person in the age group 0 to 18 years of age. So and government has made so many provisions to give protection to the children, and there is constitutional provisions like Article 21A. There is statutory provisions like the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, and there are so many other provisions like Article 23. Any type of forced labor is prohibited. Article 24, it states that child under 14 years cannot be employed to perform any hazardous work in any factory or mines. Then, apart from the constitutional provisions, what else? The Child and Adolescent Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act was passed. state that no child shall be allowed to work for more than 5 hours in a day and for not more than 3 hours without rest. Platform for effective enforcement for no child law pencil portal is there. So this is a portal for protection of child labor, which is popularly known as the pencil portal. An electronic platform that aims at involving the center, state, district government, civil society, and the general public in achieving the target of a child labor-free society. This is a portal to from that to check the child labor menace in the country. Then sexual offense against children, Article 59, it states that and strength of workers, men and women, and the tender age of the children are not abused. The Protection of Children from Sexual Offence Act POCSO Act has been passed and the provisions have been made more stringent in the recent past, looking at the magnitude of child exploitation, sexual being exploited. It was established to protect children against offences like sexual abuse, sexual harassment, and pornography. And among the convicted persons on child crime, so majority are being booked under the POCSO Act, and the provisions of this act being very stringent, so it has created a sense of fear among the persons who ever dare to commit any crime or sexual offense against the child, because it is well known that the provisions, stringent provisions of the act will put the person in trouble. Fine. So moving to the second, so all these are for the betterment of the working conditions of the children who are being more and more exposed to the social media and who are being working in the entertainment industry. And if these rules are properly implemented, so their conditions they will be able to perform, and the gifted skill in them will be manifested, but they will be enjoying all the protections of the law and constitutional provisions. Friends, moving to the next chapter, this is the Dutch disease. So, from the topic, you may be feeling that this is a health issue. No, this is not a health issue. It is, it is an economic issue. Dutch disease is not a disease in the true sense of the term. It is a symptom in economy, or it is a situation in economy where this has some negative impact, some particular issue has negative impact on the economic activity, affect the production, and it ultimately make the economy weaker. Okay, Dutch disease in economics, not in physiology or not in health science. It is an economic issue, refers to a phenomenon wherein a country witness uneven growth across sector due to the discovery of natural resources, especially large oil reserve. So see here, what is this? Witness uneven growth across sectors due to discovery of natural resources, especially large oil reserves. According to the concept, when a country discovers natural resources and start exporting them to the rest of the world, it causes the exchange rate of the country to appreciate significantly, and this in turn discourage the export from other sectors while encouraging import of cheaper alternatives. See, this line is very important. So when a country discovers natural resources and started exporting it, so what it earn? It earns in foreign currency. So what comes? Forex. Foreign. So it earn in foreign currency, increasing forex reserve. So appreciation of its own currency because of the huge reserve of internationally acceptable currency with itself. Fine. So, because that particular item is exported and huge amount is earned, okay. So, it discourages export from other sectors in the economy. All other sectors in the economy, including manufacturing, they are affected because so the country focuses on exporting from the natural resource sector, and that is what and it started importing more and more without putting emphasis on self indigenous production, because so it has plenty of resources which it can use to import. So it don't put emphasis in manufacturing inside the country, rather it focus on imports. It exhibit the following two cheap economic effects. It decreases the price competitiveness of exports of the affected countries' manufactured goods. That means other manufactured goods are not that much promoted, so that is affected. Then it increase import. The country's import is increased because in the that as the country has plenty of foreign exchange reserve, it don't mind spending few more millions in importing the items. So the item, the percentage of import increases, or more and more items are imported by the country. So which might have been produced indigenously, in case country don't have sufficient foreign exchange reserve. Because the country has sufficient foreign exchange reserve, the country go on importing more and paying from the foreign exchange reserve. In the long run, these factors can contribute to unemployment because the production has been affected, because production has been affected as manufacturing jobs move to lower cost countries. Meanwhile, non-resource based industries suffer due to increased wealth generated by resource based industry. Fine. So the manpower based industry is not promoted. That the resource based industry are promoted, natural resource based industry being promoted because they are exported. So the other, where the manpower brings value to the products, they are not being that promoted. So the persons engaged in that domain, so they have to shift to other country in search of employment. So this is the biggest challenge to the economy in the long run. While the idea was first proposed by economists Peter Neri and Max Gordon in 1982, the term dust disease was first coined by the economists in 1977 to describe the decline of the manufacturing industry in the Netherlands. So this is particular issue Dutch disease. So that is in because of the issue in Netherlands. Fine. So why in Netherlands? Because what happened in Netherlands? So in Netherlands there is huge gas reserve in the North Sea. So this is the natural resources. Fine. And so discovery of natural gases in the North Sea led to its export. The subsequent export of oil and the appreciation of the Dutch currency made Dutch exports of all non-oil products less competitive on the world market. Earlier, Dutch were exporting other items, but once the oil export increased, the export of other items started sliding in the world market, and their share in export of other items in the to the world market has drastically been reduced. Unemployment rose from 1.1% to 5.1%, and capital investment in the country dropped because all other manufacturing sector witnesses slowdown, and only one natural resources based export was promoted. So how to tackle this problem? Role of fiscal policy. Rising income due to export of natural resources should be adjusted with cautious spending on public welfare. There should be an efficient use of revenue coming from taxations to compensate for the adverse effect on the Dutch GDP, because there is huge inflow of foreign exchange. If the country goes spending it lavishly, so in the long run, when the natural resources will go over, the country will be nowhere. It will turn to a ghost economy, a ghost country. Fine. And so using that resources earned from natural resources, the country should think of utilizing that the taxation so earn in productive activity. So in the long run, even after the resources are exhausted, the country will be able to survive. Promoting spending policy. Public spending such as concentrating on import of tradable rather than non-tradable, traceable tradable rather than non-traceable should be slow, should help slow the impact of dust disease. Private spending in order to improve the productivity of the private farms should also help the reduce the impact. So if more and more private spending is done, so then demand will be created, and the demand may lead to production in other domain. so in the economy itself. Then monetary policy by the central bank of the country with the discrete natural resources, the country sees a huge inflow of money. That means foreign currency, especially foreign currency. The export of natural resources tend to affect the equilibrium in the money and exchange rate markets. The Dutch disease can be prevented if the central bank raises the banking system reserves requirement, which decreases domestic credit. You see, if the government decide to take away money from the market, it may through the central bank increase what? It may increase the CRR, it may increase the SLR. Okay, these two. It may increase the repo and reverse repo. Fine. By which less money will flow to the market. Fine. So if these steps are taken properly, then the situation may be under control, and this Dutch disease syndrome in economy may not have that adverse impact on the economy in the long run. Although in short run its impact may not be that visible, but its major impact is visible in the long run. So this can be checked. Okay, moving next. Coming to the G7 summit that is going on right now, okay, in Germany. The G7 is an informal forum of leading industrialized nations, which includes Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, UK, and United States. Okay, this is called the rich man's club in the world. So they are the rich country, they are the developed country, they are the militarily advanced country, they are the economically prosperous country, they have better living standards. Okay, so this G7 is called as the rich nations club. Representatives of the European Union are always present at the annual meeting along with others like World Bank and IMF. They have also been invited. Okay, the European, okay, Germany holds the presidency of G7 in 2022, and the president summit of G7 summit is going on in Germany, where our Prime Minister, uh, that Narendra Modi ji, has been invited by the German Chancellor to attend it as a special guest. This is where we can prove our importance in the global scenario, where the elite club has invited the Indian Prime Ministers to attend it as a, by the host country, Germany. Fine. Germany has invited India along with Argentina, Indonesia, Senegal, and South Africa to the 2022 summit as partner countries. So India is a partner country at the G7 summit being hosted by Germany at present. A number of international organizations, including the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, as I told, also participate in the summit. They are participating also. Fine. Going to little background. So it was G6. The first economic summit, which later became the G7, was launched in 1975 by former French president, okay, and then Federal Chancellor of Germany, the head of the state and government of Germany, France, Great Britain, Italy, Japan, and USA. One, two, three, four, five, six. Okay, without, so who is not here? Okay, so France, Great Britain, Germany, France, Britain, Italy, Japan, USA. So this is the group of six. Okay, so they started it. Then who joined at the seventh one? Canada. Canada joined at the seventh one. The participant exchanged idea and economic. So initially, it was a forum for discussing economic problems in the 1970s. Fine, like the oil crisis, the collapse of the system of fixed exchange rates. They discussed it. So Canada joined in 76. Okay. Subsequently, Russia also joined, but with the Ukrainian issue, Russia. So when Russia joined, when Canada joined, the G6 became G7. Fine. G6 became G7 with the joining of Russia, Canada, and G7 became G8 with the joining of Russia. Fine. So by the London summit of 1991, so Russia joined as the eighth member of G7, making it G8. But the over the Ukraine issue in 2014, Russia was removed from the membership of G7, fine, G8, and again the group has been scaled down to G7, fine. So one more thing. So initially this group was created to discuss only economic issue, but subsequently other issues were added. Fine, we can discuss it. So the as 2022 G summit conduct. So what is the importance of G7? Okay, G7 country make up to 10% of the world population, 31% of the global GDP. With only 10% of the global population, they own 31% of the global GDP and 21% of the global carbon dioxide emission. Fine. So see, so what is the positive and negative impact of this group? China and India, the two most populous country, which are the emerging one among the largest GDP figures in the world, are not part of the grouping. All the G7 countries annual public sector expenditure exceeds revenue in 2021. Most G7 countries also had a high level of gross debt, especially Japan with 263% of the GDP, Italy with 151% of the GDP, and US with 133% of GDP as public debt. They have such large borrowing. The G7 countries are important players in global trade, and the US and Germany in particular are major exporters nations. Both sold goods well over $1 trillion abroad in 2021. This is the importance of this group called G7. So, but the G7 group not only discuss the economic issue at present, they have started adding strategic issue, security issue, global issue, environmental issue to their topics. And the present ongoing meeting also put emphasis on the pandemic recovery, environment, climate change, along with the economic issues. Fine. And fortunately, for the first time, India has been invited as a guest and has been given that importance at the G7 summit because it is one among the most dynamic market and emerging economy. Fine. Then coming to VLS. RSAM, vertical land short range surface to air missile. You see, this is a missile successfully flight tested by the DRDO, okay, and Indian Navy. Vertical and short-range surface-to-air missile is an indigenous developed ship-borne weapon system. So this is a naval version. Okay, ship-borne weapon system. It was developed by the Defense Research Development Organization. Fine. It has been designed to strike at a speed airborne target at a range of 30 to 50 kilometers at an altitude of around 15 kilometers. This is an indigenous upgraded to the two-decade-old Israeli Barak 1 surface-to-air missile system on board Indian warship. We have already that system. We have taken from Israel, but right now we are able to develop it indigenously. The design is based on the Astra missile, which is beyond visual range air-to-air missile. But this is a surface-to-air missile. Then it has two key features. Is the cruciform wings. Cruciform wings, no, four wings. So in this form, wing one, wing two, wing three, wing four. Okay, this crucifixion just was correct. So crucifixion, so cruciform wings. Then thrust vectoring to the nozzle. So the nozzle is used. Okay, so which okay, this gives the more thrust. So nozzling effects give more thrust, and because the nozzle controls the pressure, and that gives more thrust to the engine. Fine. It is a canisterized system, which means it is stored and operated from specially designed compartments in the naval version because it should store in the water. So it is a canister. The inside environment is controlled, thus making its transport and storage easier and improving the shelf life of weapons because it will be on board the warship. Okay, being exposed to weather conditions inside the sea. During mid-course flight, this missile uses fire optics gyroscope-based inertial guidance mechanism. With lock on before launch and lock on after launch capability, the missile receives mid-course update via data link. Then in the terminal phase, the missile switches to active radar homing. Fine. The advanced features. The first line of defense is provided by the Indo-Israeli medium-range surface-to-air missiles, okay, which are capable of shooting down hostile aerial threats at range out of 70 kilometers. If the MRSM fails to destroy the incoming threat at a long range, the warship launches the BLSRMS at a short range of 20 to 25 to 30 kilometers. This is an advanced version of the missiles given to Indian Navy, which will definitely enhance India's naval capability, because in the this ship-borne version of this missile will be making India more powerful in the blue water. So Indian Navy will, through this missile, so using this missile, so Indian Navy can be getting towards becoming a blue water navy. Fine. Okay. Then coming to the questions, the MCQ pattern. Okay. As the practice, we always discuss MCQs. So consider the following statement with regard to the Open Network for Digital Commerce (ONDC). It is a not-for-profit organization. It's correct. Currently, it is implemented pan-India basis in all capital cities. No, it is implemented on a pilot basis in 5 cities. It is being implemented on a pilot basis on 5 cities only. What are the cities? The cities are Delhi, the capital region, then Bengaluru, then Bhopal, then Shillong and Coimbatore. Fine. And so not so two option two of this is incorrect. This is not correct. The ONDC will standardize operation like cataloging, inventory management, order fulfillment, which will make it simpler and easier for small business to be discoverable over network conduct business. So one and three are right, two is incorrect. So answer is C. Consider the following statements. So, cardamom chrysocoropulus, fallen cashew nut yield, spiking pest population. So they are all, which of the above can be possible impact of climate change? All of these. So these are all, climate change can affect all these things. Climate change, rising temperature will definitely lead to spike in pest population, and this all will affect the agriculture adversely. So all of these are the right answer. Then next question, which of the following states will be the first state to have a region specific red list of birds? Okay, so it is Kerala. Kerala is the first state which will prepare a region specific red list of birds who have been endangered. This red list is what you know. Red list is about the endangered species. Coming to question number 4. All the G8 countries are member of G20. Fine. Yes. All the G7 countries are member of G20. That is also right. Because Russia is a member. Russia is the only common country between G8 and G20. Yes, because Russia is also in G20. Russia is also in G8. But Russia is not in G7. Fine. So all these are correct statements. So question number 4, all are right. Typhoid fever is caused by which of the following? Typhoid is caused by a bacteria, and the bacteria is known as Salmonella typhi. Which bacteria? The bacteria is known as, fine. Recently, UN announced the 15th Conference of Parties to United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity will be held in which of the following country? So, Canada will host it. So, answer is A. So, Canada is the host country for the United Nations Conference, 15th Conference of the Party to the United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity for maintaining biological diversity, which is at threat of extinction due to climate change. And that is especially human-induced climate change. With reference to GST compensation, says, what is this? Be careful. But this question is GST compensation says, not GST compensation. GST compensation says. You know, says is a tax on tax collected for a specific purpose and a specified period, not for a long period, not for any purpose, specific purpose. The compensation says levied on luxury and demerit goods. Yes, it's not on all, but on specific goods. Recently, GST Council extended. Okay, GST Council extended the period GST compensation cess allocation. Okay, to 2025. No, this is not. It has not been extended. So it was implemented. So when GST came into being, 1st July 2017. This compensation till 5 years to the states for loss of revenue for adopting GST. Fine. So this will continue till June 30th, 2022. And after this, no GST compensation will be given to any state. Fine. So 2 is down. So incorrect is 2. Shantilal Saha committee recently seen in news is related to which of the following? It is on the legalization of abortion. Fine. So you see, recently it was in news because American Supreme Court has means has made abortion illegal in the country. So recently, just 2 days back, it was in news because American Supreme Court intervened and it that made abortion illegal. But here, this committee in India is for legalizing abortion. Okay, so which of the following article in the Constitution deals with child protection in the country? 21A right to child, 23, 24, 39, all these, so 39 in DPSP and these two in the fundamental rights. All these deals with the right of the child. Then last one, with reference to VLSRSAM, the missile. So consider the following statement. It is a surface-to-surface missile developed by DRDO. As you discussed recently, this is not a surface-to-surface missile. This is a surface-to-air missile. This is not a surface-to-surface, rather a surface-to-air missile developed by DND. It is an indigenous developed shipborne weapon system. This missile uses fiber optics, a gyroscope-based inertial guidance mechanism. 2 and 3 are right, but 1 is wrong. So answer is B. Fine. So this way we discuss the MCQs, and so there is also, as usual, every day we have a, section on the main answer writing in this session today. Fine. This is regarding the society topic in your GS syllabus. So discuss the impact of the following on Indian society. So impact of Sanskritization, Westernization, modernization. Sanskritization is the process through which lower caste try to achieve upward social mobility by emulating the customs and rituals of the upper caste. It is a cultural process but changes the social status and occupations as a consequences of the upward mobility brought about by Sanskritization also makes it a structural process. It accepts the wage of the upper caste as superior and that of the lower caste as inferior. Therefore, the desire to imitate the upper caste is seen as a natural and desirable. It seems to justify a model that rests on inequality and exclusion. It appears to suggest that to believe in the concept of pollution and purity of the groups of peoples is justifiable. Sanskrit is an upward movement of the lower caste to the upper caste. Normally, the lower caste people try to emulate the practices, rituals of the upper caste and try to upgrade themselves. Fine. Then comes it results in the adoption of upper caste rites and rituals, which leads to the practice of secluding girls and women, adopting dowry practices instead of bride price, and practicing caste discrimination against other groups. The effect of such a trend is that the key characteristics of Dalit culture and society are eroded. For example, the very oath of labor which low caste do is degraded as rendered shameful. So they are supposed to do this, but this translation process so make them feel that our work is degrading to our personality. Fine. Then next is Westernization in contract with the West. So as in we are in contact with the Western countries, particularly with England, set in motion another process of transformation in India known as Westernization. It is characterized by Western pattern of administration, legal system, and education through the medium of English languages. You know, during the freedom struggle, we have a struggle for the education in the language called the Orientalist and Anglicist controversy. Under the impact of this Western way of life, a sizable section of the educated and urbanized Indians adopted the Western style of dress, food, drink, speech, and manner. Even the food habits we have started changing in the Western standard. The emulation of the Western culture included the values of Western democracy, industrialization, and capitalism. There are cultural as well as structural aspects of Westernization. It brought about structural changes by the growth of modern occupations related to modern education, economy, and industry. Then modernization. Modernization is a process by which modern scientific knowledge is introduced in the society with the ultimate purpose of achieving a better and modern satisfactory life in the broadest sense of the term accepted by the society concerned. It has introduced structural changes in social institutions like marriage, family, caste, etc. The concept of joint families is rapidly decreasing. Everyone wants to remain aloof from others. This is part of modernization. There is some eliminating changes in the disappearance of cultural traits, behavioral patterns, and values. Emergence of new forms because of the synthesis of old and new elements. For example, nuclear family is the structure but functioning as joint. Modernity assumes that local ties and parochial perspectives give way to universal commitment and cosmopolitan attitude. We are not living in an isolated, secluded area with the same people, same caste living at a particular area, but we are living in a metropolis with different people from different background, different caste, different regions staying at the same place. The truth of utility, calculations, and science take precedence over those of emotions, sacred, and no rational. So these are the impact of Sanskritization. Okay, then Westernization and modernization. So thank you for watching us. So every day we'll bring such topics with you and discuss the topics and the questions for your improvement. Thank you for watching. Thanks a lot.